people see a patch of grass, I see a legacy. This isn't just a runway. It's a time machine back to when aviation was about grit, community, and the perfect stick and rudder landing. For nearly a century, pilots have fought to keep this prairie skyward. Today, we're making sure that story doesn't disappear into the clouds. Welcome to Grass Strip Gathering.
That's what I like to say. Wealth's the number, rich is a feeling. You guys were living rich.
Yeah, we had airplanes, man. Nobody else in the world had airplanes.
You've always been flying out of a grass strip?
Yep, always flying on grass. You don't have to fly to be into aviation. We're hangar rats. We grew up hangar rats. You know what I mean?
All I did is bum rides whenever I could.
Bum rides all the time.
I'm Jeremy Drolbeck, mortgage master and airplane builder. But what I love is taking it from the garage to the grass. Because real runways don't have numbers. Welcome to Grass Strip Gathering.
We are taxiing down to the end of the runway, and I am going to take you guys to one of my favorite spots. It's got to be one of the top airports on my list that I like to fly to. And I'm going to introduce you to some people out here at the airport that we're going to. And we're going to learn a little bit about how the airport was started and talk to some of the old timers there. They've got some of the coolest stories I've heard. I finally got the new stick. If you haven't seen my video where I lost a camera, the new stick is on, and we are running the wing camera for the first time since that little mishap. So hopefully everything holds good. So join me on my journey as we head to one of the coolest airports in Southwest Michigan. Prairie Ronde traffic, Kitfox 1003 Tango is departing runway 27, Prairie Ronde. All right, so we are en route. Should be a good time. It's a quick trip up here. You guys are going to really find this interesting where we're going. A lot of lakes in Michigan. You'll see as we travel some of these cool lakes. Curious, any pilots watching with the Bose headsets, you know, with the Kitfox, you get a lot of sun through the upper windshield, so I like to wear a hat to keep the sun out of my eyes, but I've noticed the noise-canceling headset, a lot of times it loses the seal more often when I have a hat on, and I'm curious, do you guys know any tricks to prevent that from happening? Comment below. So here's a cool lake coming up here. Take a cruise over it. A lot of you ask how fast these things travel, and just to kind of give you a clue here, I'm going about 100 miles an hour right now, and I got the power pulled back quite a ways. I'm only burning 4.5 gallons an hour. I could definitely add a lot more power if I wanted to, but not in a hurry. I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera, but Lake Michigan's in front of us, and as the sun sets, you can see an orange hue off the water. I'm probably maybe 40 miles. Lake Michigan. It's cool as the sun sets how you can check the lake out. Go higher, you can see it even better, of course. I'm only about 1,000 feet above the ground right now. Since I got the Kitfox, I'm learning to fly lower. My friends with tailwheel planes, or big plane style, always make fun of me because I was climbing to
Airport Charlie, smooth ground, maintain VFR at or below 2005.
I was climbing up to 3,000 feet, and they make fun of me. So, anyways,
I told you guys I was going to take you somewhere special, to one of my favorite spots. You see, when you fly a home-built tailwheel, you start looking at the dirt below you differently. You realize every strip of grass has a legacy. Take Prairie Ronde right here. 2 centuries ago, this entire area was a wild, endless 14,000-acre prairie. Early explorers used to orient themselves by looking for Big Island, a prominent island of timber that stood against the massive sea of grass. Generations later, the landscape looks different, but the mission is exactly the same. We are still looking for beacons. We are still seeking out adventure on the frontier. Only today, our island is a grass runway, and our beacon is the community of builders and pilots that keep this dream alive. I promised you guys we were going to go somewhere special today, and this is it. We're headed to Big Island. What used to be the ultimate beacon in a vast prairie is now a hidden grass runway. When we get on the ground, we're sitting down with 2 brothers who spent their childhood working and playing at this airport, an old-timer who helped put the runway in, and the current owners. Let's go.
take it. Here we are, MI-09.
Kevin Saunders from Scotts, Michigan. I'm 55 years old, and I've been here practically my whole life, on and off.
Don Saunders, I'm 62 now, and I started coming out here in probably 73 or 4 when Gary first started.
What's the first memory that you guys have of the airport?
Picking rocks out of the runway when he was building it.
How old do you think you were then?
7 or 8, somewhere in there.
Little bitty kid, man. Gary had bought a 172 that we went, I don't know if you were with us or not, we went and picked it up. It's the pictures it was sitting on a trailer. And him and Dad were unloading it, doing something, and I'd fallen asleep in the luggage compartment, taking a nap in the luggage compartment of it, and Connie come out, madder than hell at both of them, and took me in the house and fed me lunch or dinner or whatever it was. But I remember I was a little bitty kid.
How did your dad know Gary?
Just dropped his hoe in the garden one day and took off, and came back and said he went and took a flying lesson because he got sick of looking up, was what he told Mom.
I wish we knew the number of airplanes that man drug in here and rebuilt, but I'm telling you, Jeremy, it was unbelievable.
What was the first plane you remember him having?
A Swift.
He found that in a barn, and it was rough. And I don't know how long he spent, but one of the pictures don't even do it justice. How
he
beautiful.
polished it himself.
He polished
it was
himself.
painted, and he polished it himself with cornstarch.
Wow.
And he went
For real?
For real. I'm telling you, they didn't have money. My folks didn't have a lot of money. We weren't broke, but we weren't rich. Gary was the same way.
Was working out here most of the time you'd come out, or
No,
where were
we
hangar
were
rats?
We'd sit out in the airplane and go whatever, or wander around. And
Like I said, trade a plane. We'd walk through the door, and him and I, especially as young kids, that's the first place we was going, to the trade plane pile, just so we could see her. Hey, look at this one. This was before the internet, man. Yeah. He was the king of finding stuff on trade plane or through contacts. He knew a lot of people. Cowboys buzzing houses, and Gary would find a spot in a logbook. He was the king of small numbers like this.
Okay.
If he had an airplane that had big numbers on it and there was a spot in a logbook somewhere where he could put little numbers in, that's what he'd do. He wanted everything he had to have little numbers, didn't
Yeah, he hated the big end numbers.
You bought somebody's house, they can't get your numbers when they're that small.
Right.
And then he was into the bomb dropping all the time too.
Yeah.
Mom had the pool out there, and she would always say, "You put one of them in my pool, I will kick your ass." So he comes by and he put one on one end of the pool, then he put another big flower bomb on the other, and Mom's standing out there, and I was like, "Oh."
Flour in a pool makes bread.
Right.
Instantly.
So the next one, it splashed dead center of that pool. Well, it was just rags wrapped up in tin foil.
But my mother wanted to shoot him out of the sky.
What's the craziest thing that ever happened out here that you remember?
Paul Fry piled his biplane and I'm down there. How crazy do you want to get? The guy rented the place and that was quite the deal.
Yeah, the guy rented from whoever it was next door. He was out doing donuts and 1 o'clock in the morning in the middle of Gary's Runway, and
He jumped in that truck, and I don't know how far down the airstrip they were, but he hit him head on 50 mile an hour.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and gets out and starts dragging them out the windows.
Wow.
These guys are all drunk.
They don't know what's going on.
They have no idea. So he pummels all 4 of them. Connie calls the cops. Cops get here. Cops call the ambulance and put Gary in handcuffs and load him in the car, and he proceeds to tell them, this is a private airstrip.
Right.
This is not a public airstrip. Well, hang on. Let me take them handcuffs back off you.
well, before it was lights out here, he had those orange cones, and they were repainting 131, and he passed the paint truck and went down until he found the guys picking the cones up, came back what he figured was halfway, and he had that El Camino. He reached out the door, flipping in the back of his truck. And that elk, that's where he got all the cones.
Your dad built the hangar my planes in.
Yes.
Him and Gary did.
Him and Gary built it.
Yes, but they built both of them at the same time.
Okay.
But I don't know where they found most of the stuff. They bought some, but most of it was salvaged from God only knows where.
Yeah. You know, we were fortunate because as little kids, there wasn't a bunch of pilots telling us these stories. We were standing here while they were telling them and doing them. You know what I mean? They would have never told us the stories, half of them that we know.
Right.
We just happened to be in the room.
Kevin and Don remember this airport through the eyes of a child. They grew up out here, tagging along with their dad, who was close friends with Gary. When Gary bought the field, he had a massive vision to lengthen the runway, improve the turf, and build a haven for local pilots. But building the runway right in historic Big Island meant dealing with a lot of trees. It was a massive job, and it wasn't something one man could do alone. It took a community of pilots chipping in. Next up, we're going to sit down with one of the original old-timers who stood side by side with Gary in the dirt, helping him clear the timber and put this runway in. What year did you guys start out here working on the airport? 73?
73.
Does that sound right?
This is on the tree out there, huh?
Well, Gene Bell owned this place first, and he lived in a mobile home right over here on the airport, and he was a pilot, so he was flying and decided he wanted an airport, so he figured this would be a good place for one. So he bought the thing. Then Gary came along a little bit later, bought this side of it. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun also. We had a lot of fun.
So how many of you were out here working? You and Gene and Gary, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary always wanted to fly, and we were flying out of Austin Lake then. So when this property came for sale, he bought it on this side of the runway. And Gary and I put up the hangar, mostly Gary.
What about the tin roofing you guys came across?
Well, when we got to the roof, we didn't have enough money to buy roofing. So I found a place down in close to Three Rivers that handled junk, and I went in there one day and talked to the guy, and he said, you know, Sears has a whole bunch of swimming pools for sale, and I can buy those pretty cheap. So I think we said, well, that would work. The swimming pools had 4-foot tin all the way around them, and a 20-foot pool would have 3 times that in length, so it'd cover the whole hangar.
So the roof of this hangar here is made out of that pool?
For a couple $100 we bought, I think, 8 or 9 swimming pools with all the stuff, and you'll find that stuff buried out there someplace. Pumps and filters and all that kind of stuff is buried.
You didn't need any of that stuff.
We didn't need. All we needed was a tin. Keep the water from running inside the hangar. Gene Bell was quite a guy. He was like the rest of us that are sitting here. He always wanted to be doing something, and so he found a D9 bulldozer. Had a cable that ran from a little pulley back here up over the top and lift the blade up and down. It didn't have any hydraulics on it.
They killed more people than
Those bulldozers did?
And we
take your head off.
made the runway with that, pushed over some trees with it. That was nice because the stumps would come out then with it. Didn't have to screw around with the stumps.
And you were to cut the trees, you were using those big, huge, massive chainsaws, or?
I don't think. Some of it was a chainsaw, and some of it was a
Hand saws?
Cross-cut hands
Yeah.
on.
2-man.
They were broke back then. He said they couldn't rub 2 wooden nickels together.
Didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. That's right. We were paying like $15 a month at Austin Lake for rent on the hangar. Keep our airplanes in, so that was
Too much.
Man, Zach, you're ripping me off. I'm getting taken.
well back then. You had to put your whole heart and life into it because you didn't have any damn money to put into it. Yeah. And once Sunday, we didn't have anything to eat, so Gary had his house here then. There was a big pile of dirt down there that we'd pushed up with the bulldozer, dug out of the pond and pushed it up, and we were going to level it off and make a nice grass runway. And we decided we were going to shoot some ducks. We saw them floating on the pond down there, and there was a duck blind sitting there. And so Gary went in and got his rifle. He had a .22 and a .222, and I shot the .222, and I shot at that damn duck down there, and I hit it, and it flipped up in the air and went around and facing right back at me as some guy's decoy. And I said, "Get down, Gary. There might be somebody in that in that
blind."
Yeah, in the blind. They're going to shoot back at us." So we creeped all the way along behind the pile of dirt that we had there.
Worked all weekend, went to bed hungry. Didn't even get a duck.
Yeah, we didn't even get a duck. We had a lot of fun out here. Lots of fun. I've been under the wires there with my Luscombe.
Really?
That's before.
The wires used to be lower too, didn't they?
Yeah, and this tree now is this big around. You had to get over the top of and under the wires.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah, just because I could. It was fun.
What's your first memory of this place? Shoveling.
The day.
Well, everybody was friends and everybody helped out. You know, if we needed the dirt shoveled out there would be 4 or 5 guys shoveling dirt.
Right.
So they could keep their airplane here. You know, it was one of those things that just took place.
You know, a lot of people think, and that's one thing like you guys did, right? You guys got together as a community to make aviation cheaper so you guys could do it.
That's exactly.
That's kind of like what, you know, Zach and we're seeing.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
You can do it if you want to do it.
Sure.
And you can do it. You don't have to have the nicest, newest stuff. But if everybody gets together as a whole and helps each other out, you can grow.
You can do anything you want to do. I learned that early on in life. So.
You won't make it on your own, but if you have a good group, a good community with you, you can accomplish anything.
Yep. Yeah, we did. We made an airport here.
Anybody ever wreck a plane on the runway?
Ooh.
I wouldn't say so.
No.
What about
Not a total wreck.
I thought somebody hit the power lines out here one time and water went out.
It didn't wad the airplane up. It just crunched it a little bit.
Yeah.
He just touched the wheels on the wires, and it tipped it up like this. It
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine that?
A little hard landing.
was a very hard landing. Well, some guy, I don't know who it was, taxied up to the gas pumps being a show-off with
With the tail up.
the tail up and turned the engine off, and it went on his nose instead of on his tail.
Jeez. Where would you like to see a place like this airport go? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what would you like to see happening out here?
Well, I'm hoping it's still going to be an airport. They're getting more and more regulations, and screwing things up for us, but I think if we stick together, we can keep it going.
Hearing stories like those makes you realize how lucky we are to have a place like this left. The old timers carved it out of the timber, but keeping a grass strip alive today takes the same collective hustle. The next generation of pilots in this area are still tight friends. We still gather at the strip to put in sweat equity together. Next up, you're going to meet current owner Zach. He's making sure guys like us still have a place to take it from the garage to the grass.
I'm Zach Klomparens.
Lauren Klomparens.
You guys are the owners of an airport, right? You bought an airport?
Yeah, we found ourselves in this position. I'm not sure how we got here, but
How long have you have you owned MI09?
we're coming up on 2 years. I was renting a hangar in Mattawan. The owner passed away on Monday, and Connie listed this on that Saturday for sale.
Wow.
And I didn't know the future of the airport I was at. And as we looked at it, we found the house suitable for our needs. We found the buildings very adequate for our needs. And you get a runway out of the deal. So I think it was meant to be. We're right where we're supposed to be.
So how cool is it to be able to just wake up in the morning and walk out to your plane?
It's the best feeling ever when you know that you fly into the airport, you land, and you push the plane back into the hangar and walk inside. It feels a lot faster than that 20-minute drive, 30-minute drive to the airport, grabbing your stuff, packing it to the plane, packing it back home.
I don't think I realized how nice that was going to be, like just to have everything at one spot. I mean, like it's even as simple as like when he washes the plane, like
I'm here.
everybody can be involved and he's
Yep.
home.
I don't disappear at the airport for 2 hours washing the plane.
Yeah,
What do you think the kids think of it?
they love it.
I think they love it. I think they're pretty social, so they love it. We're hoping that, it all works out and maybe one of them kids will want to keep it going too. So we'll see.
Is the Champ the first airplane that you owned?
It is, yeah. Yep. First airplane we bought. I was 21.
Why grass versus pavement?
When I was looking for hangar space, we found the airport in Mattawan. Didn't even know it existed. Had no idea. And one day I saw some planes coming over real low, and I'm thinking, those guys are landing. I'm going to follow them. Followed them right to the airport. And literally had no idea it was there.
Huh.
And we talked with those guys. Hey, we've been talking about buying a plane, you think there's hangar space available? Oh, yeah. And so that was the step one. Hangar space is tough all over the country. Yeah, everything around here is pretty dilapidated. It was put together with basically parts that were free and or cheap. So we've worked away at that stuff a little bit.
You've done a lot, because the hangars that I'm in, which people have seen on video and stuff.
They were dirt floors. They had one strip of asphalt in the center where your main gear would lay on. Open-sided. They were leaky. The roof was really leaky, full of birds, whatnot. The structures themselves were good, though. They had decent bones.
Why do you like seeing other planes come in and out?
We like it because we want to promote the general aviation. We want to keep this group tight and have people coming around and being familiar with the short field and soft field landing techniques and all that stuff. I also didn't buy this place to mow grass, and I figure if I'm mowing grass, there better be a lot more people enjoying it than me. Yeah, we're gonna start doing ice cream nights.
Now, why are you doing that? You're gonna get rich off selling ice cream?
I don't think so. We'll probably lose money on the deal, but we're just doing it to promote the aviation, have friends come over, stuff like that. I mean, we want to use it for the local community. We want the people that live up and down the road to stop by, have an ice cream cone, bring their kids, see the airplanes. And we want people to mingle with these pilots and maybe realize that they could have their own plane too and work towards those goals if they wanted to.
Say to people that say it's too expensive.
I tell them they're nuts. I say, buy a cheap old plane like this, get a couple partners if it's too expensive and split the cost. And I'll tell you, it's not cheaper to buy the airport to get out of hangar rent.
How do you feel about the money he spends on the airport and just all those? I know my wife gives me crap sometimes, so you're totally okay with it all, or? Be honest.
Yeah. Think about that ice cream freezer you told me not to buy.
No, I don't approve every purchase for the airport. But I do get to do a lot of the things that I want to do too. So we compromise, we make it work. But it's been good and it's been fun. I mean, like going back to what you were saying about was this a dream? What was this? This was a dream. It's been enjoyable. It's been enjoyable to watch him be able to enjoy what he really
Absolutely.
loves.
So the other weekend, a bunch of people got together and came out and helped clear trees, right?
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was a big deal. So back it up a couple steps. Back in 73, 74, when Gary bought this place originally and cleared the land, they cut the trees back basically to the property line and cleared the whole east end of the runway. And from then on, it's kind of grown back up, and there were a few trees that were, they had some branches that were reaching out towards the runway and probably getting within 10 or 15 feet of the edge of the runway, but 60 feet high. And so it was starting to feel a little bit crowded, and basically in general, we cut down all the trees that were nearest to the runway, that were growing towards the runway, just to kind of bring it back to the way it was 50 years ago and relieve some of that encroachment that was happening and buy us time.
So how'd you get everybody together?
I put out an invitation to the friends of the airport and so forth, and just asked for help for a work day to do a cleanup. I mean, we had limbs stretched out for a half a mile. And so we rented a chipper and a skid steer. I think that it's going to be really nice this summer.
Grass strips are speckled across the entire country, a true testament to how deeply aviation is woven into our history. Keeping that history alive takes real effort. It takes people like Zach, Richard, and the boys, backed by a tight community of pilots who refuse to let these places fade away. MI-09 is the airport I call home, and there's nothing better than being surrounded by people who share that passion. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next journey, because the best runways don't have numbers. I'm Jeremy Drobeck, Mortgage Master, but this is what I love.